Man saves an alien pet, but under the moonlight, it transforms into a woman. The rain had started somewhere between Ezra leaving work and realizing he'd left his only umbrella in a cafe too. Weeks ago, it was a slow, lazy drizzle, soaking the cracked pavement and casting. The city in a blurred dreamlike haze, he tugged his hoodie tighter around himself, mentally debating whether to risk another expensive coffee from the place around the corner or just accept his fate as a man doomed to mediocre instant brew at home. That was when he heard the noise, a soft warbling sound somewhere. Between a coo and a whistle echoed from the alley to his left, Ezra stopped. Looked around. This was one of those moments in life where a person had two choices: ignore the weird sound and go home like a responsible adult, or investigate it like every horror movie protagonist who never made it past the first act. Naturally, he turned into the alley. It wasn't much, just a cramped space wedged between an old bookstore and a Chinese takeout place. Cardboard boxes sagged in the damp, and the air smelled like rain, soy sauce, and the faintest hint of burnt electricity. He scanned the shadows, half expecting to find a stray cat or a particularly aggressive raccoon. Instead, his gaze landed on something small curled up near an overturned trash can. The creature was barely the size of a football, covered in sleek silvery blue fur, large luminous eyes blinked up at him, reflecting the neon lights from the street. Its ears, long, delicate, and slightly pointed, twitched as it studied him. Ezra took a slow step closer, and the thing let out another soft chirp. Okay, he muttered to himself, either someone's weird genetic experiment just escaped, or I'm about to have the strangest night of my life. The creature shivered, making a pitiful little noise that decided it. Ezra crouched, hesitating for only a moment before scooping it up. It was lighter than expected, its fur warm and unbelievably soft. The thing nestled against his chest without protest, letting out a contented sigh. Oh, you trust me way too fast, Ezra said, shaking his head. This is how people get kidnapped, buddy. The creature responded by promptly licking his chin. Ezra sighed. Great, I just adopted a weird space raccoon, didn't I? By the time he got home, the rain had picked up. Ezra pushed open the door to his tiny apartment, kicking off his damp sneakers while keeping a firm grip on his new companion. The creature blinked up at him expectantly, as if waiting for a grand tour. Well, welcome to my humble abode, Ezra said, setting it down on the couch. It's small, the Wi-Fi is terrible, and the coffee machine is haunted. But it's home, the creature chirped, tilting its head. Ezra flopped onto the couch beside it, running a hand through his damp hair. So what are you exactly? Some kind of mutant squirrel? A top secret government pet project, please? Tell me you're not some billionaire's illegal exotic animal, because I cannot afford a lawsuit. The creature yawned, stretching out its tiny limbs before promptly rolling onto its back, its tail longer than he'd noticed before, flicked lazily over the couch's armrest. Ezra raised an eyebrow. That's not an answer, you know. In response, the creature made a sound that could only be described as a delighted purr and reached out a tiny paw. Ezra hesitated, then gave in and scratched behind one of its long ears. The effect was immediate. The creature practically melted, eyes half-litting in bliss. Well, Ezra muttered, amused, guess you're staying. Nomming, it took less time than expected after cycling through whiskers, gremlin, space possum, and fluffy McCurd, all of which were met with unimpressed blinking. Ezra finally landed on Tofu. The creature gave a pleased trill at the name, which he took as a good sign. The first few hours went smoothly. Tofu explored the apartment with the curiosity of a toddler knocking over a cereal box, nearly short-circuiting his TV by pawing at the remote and discovering a deep fascination with his fridge light. Ezra made himself a coffee, ignoring the ominous rattling from the machine, and settled in to figure out what exactly he had just invited into his life. As night fell, Tofu curled up in the crook of Ezra's arm, making a soft, warring sound that he assumed was the alien equivalent of snoring. Guess you're a night cuddler, huh? Ezra murmured. Tofu let out a tiny, contented hum he barely remembered drifting off. Which was why waking up to find a person standing in his living room nearly sent him into cardiac arrest. Ezra yelped. Jerking upright, his first thought was that someone had broken in, except that didn't make sense because he was pretty. Sure, burglars didn't have long, pointed ears and glowing violet eyes. The woman standing in the middle of his apartment crossed her arms, watching him with an expression that suggested she had zero patience for whatever reaction he was about to have. Ezra blinked again, then finally he managed. Who, what? How? The woman exhaled sharply, rubbing her temples. Okay, first, don't freak out. Ezra immediately freaked out. He scrambled off the couch, nearly tripping over himself as he backed away. Who are you? How did you get in here? Did I leave the door unlocked? Is this a prank? Because if this is a prank, it's a terrible one. The woman sighed. I told you not to freak out. Yeah, well, maybe lead with something less terrifying. She pinched the bridge of her nose, looking like she was already regretting this conversation. Fine, let's just get this over with. She exhaled and squared her shoulders. Ezra, I am Tofu. There was a beat of silence. Ezra stared at her. What? The woman gestured to herself. Tofu, me, the tiny creature you adopted. Ezra continued to stare, then, very slowly, he shook his head. Nope, that's not a thing. That's not possible. I mean, I know. I took a weirdo-looking animal home, but this is some next-level science fiction nonsense. The woman Tofu raised an eyebrow. Well, congratulations, you live in science fiction. Now Ezra sat back down. He needed a moment, maybe several, maybe an entire lifetime. Tofu folded her arms. Listen, I'll explain everything, just don't pass out or anything, okay? Ezra groaned, running a hand down his face. Oh, I'm not passing out, I'm just deeply, profoundly questioning my life choices. Tofu smirked. Yeah, well, welcome to my world, human. Ezra sighed. He had a feeling his life had just gotten much more complicated. Ezra was not okay. This was an important distinction, because generally speaking, he considered himself to be a very okay kind of guy. Sure, his job was mediocre, his Wi-Fi was unreliable, and his coffee maker had been making increasingly unsettling noises every morning, but overall okay, stable, predictable. And then in the span of a single night, his world had been yeeted directly into the twilight zone. He was still trying to process it, sitting stiffly on his couch, eyes darting between his phone, which he had debated calling the authorities with, but ultimately decided against, because what would he even say? And the very tall, very not small, fuzzy creature woman standing in his living room. So let's just go over this one more time, Ezra said slowly, rubbing his temples. Your Tofu? Yes, the tiny, adorable, vaguely raccoon-like alien I rescued from a sketchy alleyway. Yes, and you turn into this at night. He gestured at her, a completely human-looking woman, except for the long, pointed ears and eyes that shimmered a little too brightly under the apartment's cheap lighting. Also, yes. Ezra exhaled sharply. See, I'm really trying to roll with this, but my brain is staging a full-blown rebellion. Tofu, no, Erin, as she had introduced herself crossed her arms. Would it help if I turned back into the fuzzy version? Maybe that would make it less weird for you. Ezra frowned. I don't actually know if that would help or just make it worse. Erin shrugged. Fair. There was an awkward beat of silence. Ezra, despite every logical instinct screaming at him, couldn't help but really look at her now. She still had the same silver blue coloring in her hair, that her fur had. Her skin had a faint luminescence to it. Not in a glow stick kind of way, but more like moonlight on water. And those eyes, big, impossibly bright, and framed by long lashes. She caught him staring and raised an eyebrow. Ezra cleared his throat suddenly, finding a very intense interest in the coffee table. So, what are you exactly? Erin tilted her head. You mean biologically? Sure, let's just start there before I have a full existential breakdown. Erin sighed, moving to sit on the opposite end of the couch. Okay, fine. My species is called the Velquin. We have a dual-state biological cycle, meaning we shift between two forms depending on external conditions. Ezra blinked. Like werewolves? She scowled, numbered, not like werewolves are you. Sure, because you're literally a tiny alien fuzzball by day and a tall, intimidating space elf by night. Aaron muttered something in an alien language that Ezra was fairly certain was a very colorful insult look. She continued, our shifting ability is a defense mechanism. When we're in unfamiliar or hostile environments, we default to our smaller form because it's easier to hide and harder to detect. Ezra absorbed. That for a second, huh? So you basically turn into an adorable distraction, Aaron scowled harder. I hate that you're not entirely wrong, Ezra grinned despite himself. Okay, follow-up question. Why are you on Earth? And more importantly, why? Were you abandoned in an alley like a lost kitten? At that her expression darkened, her gaze flickering toward the window. That's complicated. Ezra waited when she didn't continue. He leaned forward. Listen, I just took in a literal alien. I think I can handle complicated. Aaron let out a slow breath. Fine, short version. I crash landed here, my ship's gone, and I may or may not be on the run from people who would very much like to find me. Ezra's stomach sank. Wait, are you telling me I just adopted a fugitive like an intergalactic fugitive? Aaron rolled her eyes. Oh, relax, it's not that dramatic. Ezra threw his hands up. Aaron, you're an alien, hiding on Earth from God knows who. I think we passed a dramatic several exits ago. She waved a hand. Look, I doubt they even know I'm here. Earth isn't exactly a major blip on the interstellar radar. You guys only just started figuring out proper space flight. Ezra stared. Did you just roast the entire planet? I'm just saying your space program is quaint. Ezra groaned, dragging a hand down his face. Great, not only is my new roommate a fugitive alien, she's also a condescending space snob. Aaron smirked. Would it make you feel better if I said I find your primitive technology charming? No, another silence stretched between them. Ezra exhaled slowly, trying to sort through the absolute mess his life had just become. Aaron, for her part, seemed completely unbothered, lazily inspecting her nails as if this were the most casual conversation in the world. Finally, Ezra said, so what now? Aaron shrugged. I don't know, I didn't exactly have a plan for this. I was just trying to survive. Ezra chewed the inside of his cheek. Right. Well, I guess you can stay here. Aaron arched an eyebrow. You guess? Okay, fine, yes, you can stay. Ezra corrected, rubbing his temples. But you owe me some answers at some point, and also rent if you're going to be my intergalactic fugitive roommate. You should at least help cover utilities. Aaron snorted. You think I have Earth money? I don't know, maybe you have a stash of space gold or something. She shook her head, chuckling. You are ridiculous. Ezra sighed. Yeah, well, ridiculous or not, I'm in this now. Aaron leaned back, studying him. You don't regret taking me in? Ezra hesitated. I probably should, and yet here we are. Aaron's smirk softened into something else, something almost grateful. Ezra ignored the warmth in his chest at the sight. Fine, she said. You let me crash here and I'll try not to completely ruin your life. Ezra groaned. Oh, fantastic, so reassuring. Aaron grinned. You'll be fine. Human, what's the worst that could happen? Ezra had a very bad feeling about that question. Ezra had always prided himself on being adaptable. He handled unexpected schedule changes at work like a champ. He could roll with last-minute dinner plans, canceled appointments, and even the occasional technology betrayal. Looking at you, cursed coffee maker. But waking up to an alien roommate that was pushing at the morning after his life took a sharp turn into sci-fi sitcom territory. Ezra found himself standing in his kitchen, staring blankly at his coffee mug, trying to process his new reality. Across from him, perched on the counter in her small fuzzy form, tofu. Aaron, whatever, was delicately nibbling on a slice of toast. So Ezra said, running a hand through his messy hair. Just so I have this clear, you turn into a cute tiny alien during the day and at night. You're well, you tofu chirped. Ezra took that as a yes, and this whole transformation thing, totally normal for your species. Another chirp. Ezra exhaled. Right, normal, great. He took a long sip of coffee. And you're positive no other surprises are coming my way? No sudden extra limbs, no weird alien mating rituals. I should be aware of. Tofu paused mid-bite, then very deliberately threw the rest of her toast at his face. Okay, rude, Ezra said, wiping crumbs off his hoodie. I was just asking. Tofu rolled her big shimmering eyes and resumed eating like she hadn't just assaulted him with carbohydrates. Ezra sighed. I'm just trying to get a grip here. All right, yesterday I was a regular guy. Today I'm harboring an alien fugitive who apparently has zero patience for my very reasonable questions. Tofu blinked at him. Then, without warning, she launched herself off the counter, landing squarely on his shoulder. Ezra yelped. You cannot just do that. She settled in like a smug little scarf, her tiny tail flicking against his cheek. Oh, this is my life now, Ezra muttered, despite the mind-breaking strangeness of his new circumstances. The day was surprisingly normal. Ezra had work, which meant dragging himself to his small cubicle-sized desk at the tech support office, where he spent 8 mind-numbing hours fixing other people's computer problems while contemplating the increasingly bizarre direction of his existence. Meanwhile, Tofu Erin had made herself at home at lunch. He checked the security camera app on his phone. He might have installed a cheap pet cam in his apartment once, and might have repurposed it to monitor his alien guest, expecting to find her curled up and napping. Instead, she was using his tablet. Ezra nearly choked on his sandwich. He zoomed in tiny alien paws, typing flawlessly. What in the actual? The guy sitting next to him at work, James, peered over. Everything okay? Ezra slapped his phone face down on the desk. Yep, totally fine. Definitely not discovering that my new pet is probably smarter than me. James gave him a look, but didn't press. Ezra went back to work, ignoring the existential dread creeping. By the time he got home, he had braced himself for honestly anything. Maybe the apartment would be on fire. Maybe his fridge would be hacked into an alien database. Maybe Tofu would be in the middle of an intergalactic Zoom call. Instead, he walked in to find her exactly where he left her, except now curled up on his couch watching cat videos on his tablet. Ezra closed the door and pinched the bridge of his nose. I don't even know where to start with this. Tofu barely acknowledged him, too entranced by a compilation of cats failing at basic motor skills. Ezra flopped onto the couch beside her. So, what exactly were you doing on my tablet earlier? Tofu paused the video, looked at him, then trilled. Now that's not an answer. She chittered something and nudged the screen with her tiny paw. The video resumed. Ezra sighed. I think I like this better, when I thought you were just a weird space possum. Nightfall brought the inevitable. Ezra had just finished making a lazy dinner, instant ramen, because his brain was too fried for actual effort. When the air in the apartment shifted, it was subtle, like a change in pressure, but noticeable. Tofu, still curled on the couch, shivered. Ezra sat down his bowl. You okay? Before he even finished the question, a glow pulsed around her small form. Oh, right, Ezra muttered. This is happening again. The glow brightened, a soft hum filling the air, and in the span of a heartbeat, the tiny alien was gone, replaced by a fully grown Aaron sitting cross-legged on his couch like nothing had happened. Ezra exhaled. You really need to start giving me a warning before you do that. Aaron smirked. Where's the fun in that? Ezra shook his head. Standing up. So what now? You just hang out like this all night? Aaron stretched. Cat-like, pretty much. Ezra grabbed his ramen and plopped back down. Great, so my couch is now officially alien hangout central. Aaron peered at his bowl. What are you eating? Ezra looked down at his ramen. Noodles. Aaron leaned closer, studying it like a scientist, examining a mysterious life form that smells weird. Ezra raised an eyebrow. Weird? Oh, I'm sorry. Does Her Highness of Space and Stars not approve of our humble Earth cuisine? Aaron snorted. I mean, it's literally just water and processed starch. Ezra gasped dramatically. I'll have you know, instant ramen is an art form. She gave him an unconvinced look. A husher. Ezra shoved a dramatic bite into his mouth, maintaining eye contact. Your loss. Aaron rolled her eyes, but seemed amused. The night passed like that. Easy conversation, mild banter, a surprising lack of existential panic. Maybe it was exhaustion, maybe it was the realization that no matter how weird his life had become, Aaron didn't feel like a threat still. As he got up to turn off the lights, a thought lingered in his mind. "Hey," he said, "if you're stuck here, what's your endgame?" Aaron hesitated. "I don't know yet." Ezra nodded slowly. He had a feeling that whatever came next it was going to be a lot bigger than just late-night ramen debates. Ezra woke up to an unfamiliar noise. It wasn't his alarm. It wasn't the neighbors upstairs arguing about whether pineapple belonged on pizza again, which, by the way, it definitely did. No, this was different, metallic, rhythmic, like someone was messing with his kitchen appliances in a way that would inevitably void the warranty. He groaned, rolled over, and immediately yelped as he came face to face with a pair of glowing blue eyes. "Good morning, human." Ezra flailed so hard he nearly fell off the bed. "What the Aaron, you cannot just hover over me like some kind of sleep paralysis." Demon Aaron, now fully in her nighttime form, merely raised an eyebrow. "Demon, that's rude. I was just evaluating the efficiency of your sleep patterns." Ezra dragged a hand down his face. "And why were you evaluating my sleep patterns?" Aaron shrugged. "Curiosity. Also, you make weird noises when you sleep." I was concerned you were malfunctioning." Ezra groaned. "I was snoring." "Aaron, it's a human thing. I see." "Unfortunate." Ezra scowled, but before he could continue his much-needed lecture on personal boundaries, that noise from the kitchen happened again. Clang. Clink. He frowned. What exactly is that?" Aaron brightened. "Oh, I made something." Ezra's concern tripled. "Made what exactly?" Aaron didn't answer. Instead, she turned and strode toward the kitchen, clearly expecting him to follow, which he did, albeit with the deep creeping fear of someone who knew their home was about to be irreversibly altered. When he entered the kitchen, his brain took a solid 5 seconds to comprehend the absolute madness before him. His toaster, his perfectly normal earthly toaster, was no longer a toaster. It had been taken apart, reassembled, and fused with something else. A sleek metallic core pulsed faintly from its center. The entire thing hummed with quiet energy, occasionally crackling with what Ezra desperately hoped wasn't radioactive plasma. "What?" Ezra said very carefully. "Did you do?" Aaron grinned. "I improved it." Ezra pointed at the abomination. "That was a toaster." "Not anymore. Now it's a multifunctional quantum energy calibrator." "Oh, and it still toast bread." Ezra's brain Bluke screened. "You what?" Aaron grabbed a slice of bread from the counter, tossed it into the device, and tapped a small glowing panel on its side. Instantly, the toaster, whatever, let out a soft, where a tiny portal shimmered in the air above it, and the bread disappeared only to reappear a second later, perfectly toasted, landing neatly on a plate. Ezra stared. "You just teleported toast." Aaron beamed. "I know. Pretty neat, right?" Ezra rubbed his temples. "Aaron, I just wanted to make breakfast, not accidentally open a wormhole in my apartment." Aaron rolled her eyes. "Oh, please. It doesn't open wormholes. That would require significantly more power. This just uses a controlled quantum displacement field to reposition objects within a localized space." Ezra stared blankly. Aaron sighed. "It moves stuff short distances." Ezra pinched the bridge of his nose. "Okay. Great, cool. So now I have a toaster that bends space." Aaron picked up the slice of toast and took a bite. "Still works though." Ezra sighed. Aaron listened to me carefully. "No more upgrading my stuff." Aaron gave an exaggerated pout. "But your technology is so primitive." "Yes, and I'd like to keep it that way because you know what primitive technology doesn't do." "Randomly explode." Aaron huffed. "Fine. No more upgrades." Ezra exhaled, relieved. Then she muttered, "To things in your room at least." Ezra shot her a look. "I heard that." Aaron grinned entirely unrepentant. Once Ezra had eaten a completely non-leoparded breakfast, he attempted to get his day back on track. He had errands to run, groceries to buy, and a desperate need to pretend his life was normal for at least 2 hours. Aaron, thankfully, had shifted back to her small tofu form, making it easier to smuggle her around without causing mass hysteria. She sat perched on his shoulder as he walked through the grocery store tail, flicking lazily. So what is the purpose of this place? Ezra grabbed a box of cereal. It's a grocery store, we buy food. Here, Erin tilted her tiny head. Why not just synthesize your nutrients in pill form? It would be far more efficient. Ezra stared at her in abject horror. Because food exists, Erin, food is important. Food is joy. Erin huffed. I swear your species prioritizes the weirdest things. Ezra rolled his eyes and continued shopping, occasionally having to stop Tofu from trying to swipe random items off the shelves. Then as they reached the checkout line, something odd happened. Tofu suddenly tensed on his shoulder, her tiny claws gripping his hoodie tightly. Ezra frowned. Are you good? Tofu didn't answer her glowing eyes locked onto something or someone near the entrance. Ezra followed her gaze and spotted a man standing near the automatic doors. He looked normal too. Normal, bland features, plain clothes, the kind of face you'd forget instantly. But there was something off about him, something that made the hairs on Ezra's arms stand on end. Then the man turned his head ever so slightly, and for the briefest moment, Ezra swore his eyes flash. Ezra's stomach dropped. Tofu. He whispered. Tofu remained frozen, gaze unblinking. Then ever so subtly she pressed herself lower against his neck, like she was trying to disappear. Ezra's pulse spiked. That was not a good sign. He turned, forcing himself to act casual, and stepped toward the self-checkout. He didn't run. Running would draw attention, but he moved faster, bagging his groceries with the efficiency of a man, suddenly very eager to leave. As he stepped outside, the air felt heavier. He risked a glance over his shoulder. The man was gone. Ezra swallowed hard. Erin. Tofu's tiny voice was barely above a whisper. We need to leave now. Ezra didn't argue, because for the first time since all this started, he had the distinct gut-chilling feeling that someone was watching them. Ezra had a lot of rules for life, most of which had kept him in one piece. So far, rule number 1, never trust a taco stand that doesn't have a long line. Rule number 2, if your phone's autocorrect keeps trying to change a word, you probably don't actually know how to spell it. And rule number 3, if your tiny alien roommate suddenly acts like they've seen a ghost, do not ask questions, just leave. So he left. Ezra made a beeline for his car, walking at a normal, not at all panicked pace, casually loading groceries into the trunk like he wasn't internally screaming. Tofu. Erin, whatever remained, clamped onto his shoulder like a very concerned, sentient scarf. Once they were inside the car, Ezra locked the doors, started the engine, and pulled onto the road. Only when they were a safe distance away did he finally speak. All right, he said, gripping the wheel. What the hell was that? Tofu remained silent. Ezra glanced at her. Tofu. Erin, whoever, I need context. She finally stirred, her tiny body shivering slightly. It was a seeker. Ezra blinked. Okay, cool, great. What's a seeker? Tofu's ears flattened. A hunter. Ezra's stomach dropped. A hunter, as in. Tofu hesitated, then sighed. With a soft shimmer, her form stretched and shifted. And in an instant, Erin was sitting in the passenger seat, looking much less like a pet and much more like someone capable of dropkicking his entire understanding of the universe. She ran a hand through her hair, exhaling slowly. Seekers are not good news. They're agents. They track things down, people like me. Ezra's fingers tightened on the wheel while Erin glanced at him, then out the window. Because I wasn't supposed to leave. Ezra frowned. Leave where? Erin didn't answer right away. Instead, she rubbed her temple, looking tired. It was the first time he'd seen her look genuinely worn out. I come from a place called Ara, she finally said. It's complicated, but let's just say people like me don't usually get the luxury of choices. Ezra's grip relaxed slightly. So you ran? Erin gave a small, bitter smile. I escaped. Ezra exhaled. And now someone's looking for you. Erin nodded. Awesome. Ezra muttered. Fantastic. So I'm just casually harboring an intergalactic fugitive. This is fine. This is totally fine. Erin raised an eyebrow. Would it make you feel better if I said I was innocent? Ezra gave her a look. Do you feel better when criminals say that? Aaron smirked. Fair point. Ezra sighed. So what do we do? Aaron leaned back in, the seat crossing her arms. We lay low, avoid attention, and most importantly, we do not get caught. Ezra grimaced. Cool, great plan, love it, very low stress. Aaron shot him a grin. You did say you wanted more excitement in your life, Ezra groaned. That was before I knew excitement came with a side of potential abduction. Aaron chuckled. Too late now. Ezra shook his head, muttering something about why me, but deep down he knew. Whatever this was, however deep it went, he was already way too far in to back out. Now back at the apartment, Ezra went. Full paranoid mode, he checked the locks, then double-checked them, then triple checked them, despite Aaron's reminder that a galactic bounty hunter probably wasn't going to be stopped by Earth's flimsy, primitive security measures. He also insisted they keep the lights off, which Aaron found hilarious. You realize these guys have heat sensors, right? She said, lounging on the couch. Ezra threw up his hands. Then what am I supposed to do? Install a lead bunker in my living room? Aaron smirked. Now you're thinking like a fugitive. Ezra groaned and collapsed onto the couch next to her, rubbing his face. Okay, let's just think. You said they track things down. How? Aaron tilted her head different ways. Tech, mostly tracking signals, sometimes DNA markers, depends on how badly they want you. Ezra sat up. Wait, tech? You mean like his eyes widened like phones? Aaron's expression didn't change, but something about her posture stiffened ever so slightly. Ezra stared. Oh my God. You didn't turn off your tracker, did you? Aaron winced. In my defense, I thought it was disabled. Ezra leapt to his feet. You've been broadcasting your location this whole time. Aaron cringed. Okay. Technically, yes. But oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Ezra began packing. I let you live here. I took you to the store. We're so screwed. Aaron huffed. Relax, I just need to disable it properly. Ezra stopped packing. And how exactly do you do that? Aaron's lips curled into a mischievous grin. By breaking it. Ezra's stomach twisted. I'm going to regret asking, but where is it? Aaron's grin widened. Ezra swallowed. Aaron, where is it? Aaron tapped her temple. Ezra's face palled. It's in your brain. Aaron shrugged. More like embedded in my nervous system. But yeah, close enough. Ezra covered his face with both hands. Oh my God, this is worse than I thought. Aaron leaned toward him. Come on, how bad could it be? Ezra dropped his hands, looking at her like she was insane. You have an alien tracking device inside you. Aaron waved a hand dismissively. Just rip it out. Ezra made a strangled sound. That's not how surgery works. Aaron grinned. Relax, I've done this before. Ezra inhaled, exhaled, closed his eyes, opened them again. You know what? Fine, whatever. Rip an actual GPS chip out of your body. I give up. Aaron's smile widened. See, you're adapting. Ezra groaned, flopping dramatically onto the couch. I hate my life. Aaron stood up. I'll need a screwdriver. Ezra threw a pillow at her. Ezra had seen a lot of weird things in the past few weeks. Adorable alien creatures that turned into stunning women, a toaster that now functioned as a low-budget teleportation device, and the deeply unsettling realization that Earth definitely wasn't alone in the universe. But watching Aaron attempt to self-surgically remove an alien tracking implant from her nervous system with nothing but a stolen medical kit and his least rusty screwdriver, yeah, that was climbing right to the top of the weirdness list. Are you sure this is a good idea? Ezra asked, sitting on the floor beside her, half out of concern and half because he had a very real fear that she might pass out halfway through, and he'd have to take her to a hospital, which, given the whole intergalactic fugitive situation, seemed like a really bad plan. Aaron, now seated cross-legged on the couch, rolled up her sleeve, revealing smooth skin and the faintest trace of something not quite organic pulsing beneath the surface of her forearm. She didn't even glance at him. Relax, human. This is not my first time doing this. Ezra palled. That is not a comforting sentence. Aaron flashed him a smirk. Don't worry, I'm good with my hands. Ezra choked. Not the time, Aaron, she snickered, but said nothing instead. Picking up the screwdriver and pressing the cold tip to her skin, Ezra's stomach Twisted, oh God, oh God, oh God, Aaron let out a small hiss as the metal made contact, and a faint blue light flickered under her skin. Ezra gripped his knees to keep from completely losing his mind. I really don't think you should be doing this, he said, his voice just shy of panicked. Erin gritted her teeth, adjusting the angle. Well, unless you want a highly trained interstellar bounty hunter to show up at our front door, I suggest you let me concentrate. Ezra exhaled sharply and forced himself to shut up for the next few minutes. He could do nothing but watch as Erin carefully worked. She manipulated the screwdriver with an almost surgeon-like precision, and Ezra tried very hard not to pass out as a tiny Silverell-looking device, about the size of a grain of rice, was slowly extracted from beneath her skin the second it came free. Erin flicked onto the coffee table. Ezra immediately scooted back. Oh God, is it going to explode? Erin wiped the sweat from her brow. No. Ezra narrowed his eyes. You hesitated. Erin smirked, maybe a little. Ezra groaned, but didn't argue. Instead, he stared at the tiny blinking device, its glow pulsing with eerie precision. So what do we do with it? He asked. Erin cracked her knuckles. We give it a new home. Ezra blinked. What? Before he could finish, Erin snatched the tracker and shoved it inside his toaster. Ezra screamed. Why do you keep doing this to my appliances? Erin shrugged. I like your appliances. Ezra flailed. It's a toaster, not a high-security storage unit. Erin wiggled her fingers. It is now. Ezra dropped his head into his hands. I hate this. I hate all of this. Erin patted his head. You'll be fine, Ezra groaned. A few hours later, after the immediate crisis had sort of passed, Ezra found himself sprawled out on the couch. Exhausted Erin, now back in her tiny, tofu form, was curled up on his chest, her tail flicking lazily. So, Ezra mumbled, staring at the ceiling, we're good now. Right, no more signals, no more bounty hunters. Tofu made a non-committal noise. For now. Ezra squinted down at her. For now. She yawned. I mean, we did just reroute an interstellar tracking device into a bread-warming machine. At best, it'll confuse them for a while. Ezra rubbed his face. Oh my God. Tofu nuzzled into his shirt. You worry too much, Ezra huffed. Yeah, well, maybe. That's because my life was normal before I found you, Tofu purred. Was it though? Ezra opened his mouth. Shut it. Opened it again. Okay, no. Not really, Tofu snickered. They fell into a comfortable silence. After that, Ezra listened to the quiet hum of the apartment, the gentle sound of Tofu's breathing, the occasional pop from the kitchen where presumably his newly modified toaster was either processing its new identity or planning its inevitable rebellion. For the first time in a while, Ezra actually felt okay, maybe even good. And then, bang, the sound of something slamming against the apartment door nearly launched him off the couch. Tofu jolted upright, her eyes snapping open. Ezra's blood ran cold. The sound came again, a hard, deliberate knock. Tofu shifted, eyes glowing faintly. Ezra swallowed hard. Erin, tell me that's the pizza guy. Erin, still small, flicked her ears toward the door, then very softly she whispered, it's not the pizza guy. Ezra's heart stopped. The knock came again, louder. Ezra grabbed. Tofu held her close. The door rattled. A voice, low, unfamiliar, spoke from the other side. Ezra Carter. Ezra's soul left his body. He squeezed his eyes shut. Nope, I'm dreaming. This isn't happening. Then the voice spoke again. We know you're in there. Ezra slowly turned to Tofu, completely panicked. Tofu just whispered, run. Ezra had experienced a lot of bad days in his life. There was the time he accidentally sent a romantic text meant for his date to his boss. The time he spilled an entire cup of coffee on his laptop 5 minutes before an important presentation. The time he got his head stuck in a turtleneck sweater at a department store and had to be rescued by a very unamused employee. But none of those days compared to this one, because currently, Ezra Carter was running for his life, with Tofu Erin whatever clinging to his shoulder in her tiny form. He sprinted down the apartment building's fire escape, while the door behind them exploded inwards. The force rattled the rusting metal steps, and Ezra barely managed to keep his footing as he heard heavy boots storm into his now very ex-apartment. "Keep moving, Aaron." Hissed Ezra didn't need to be told twice. They hit the pavement and booked it toward his car. Ezra fumbled with his keys, hard hammering as a shadow moved in the alleyway behind them. Aaron let out a low growl, tiny but very menacing, and Ezra, for the first time in his life, seriously wished he had laser eyes. The car unlocked with a beep. They dove inside. Ezra slammed the door, shoved the key into the ignition, and the car stalled. "Oh, you have got to be kidding me," he gasped. Aaron turned human in a blink, throwing a desperate glance behind them. Now would be a really good time to start the car. "Ezra, I know that," he shouted, trying again. The engine coughed. A figure emerged from the shadows. Aaron's hands clenched. "Ezra, the car finally roared to life." Ezra slammed his foot on the gas. The tires screeched. The car lurched forward. The figure lunged, and then thunk. Ezra flinched. Was that Aaron? Exhaled. "Trash can keep driving." Ezra did not need to be told twice. They didn't stop until they were well out of the city, miles from the reach of whoever the hell had come knocking on Ezra's door. They pulled onto an empty stretch of road near the outskirts where the stars were bright and the air was quiet. Ezra parked the car and let his forehead fall against the steering wheel. Aaron sat beside him, arms crossed, lips pressed together in deep thought. For a long moment neither of them spoke. Then Ezra muttered, "I hate everything." Aaron snorted softly. "Understandable." Ezra lifted his head, exhaling sharply. "All right, no more running. What's the actual plan?" Aaron hesitated. Ezra turned to her. "Aaron." She looked at him, something flickering in her expression. Then she said very quietly, "I have to leave." Ezra's chest tightened. He forced a small, humorless laugh. "Yeah, okay, sure, fine. So where are we going?" Aaron shook her head. "I have to leave." "Ezra, you can't come with me." Ezra felt like he'd been punched in the gut. "Excuse me," Aaron sighed, rubbing her arms. "I can't keep dragging you into this. The longer I stay, the more danger you're in. It's only a matter of time before they send worse after me." Ezra's hands clenched on the wheel. "You think I care? You think rather you just disappear instead." Aaron's gaze softened. "Ezra, no." He snapped. "You don't get to do this. You don't get to just leave." After he struggled to find the right words. "After crashing into my life like a freaking supernova. After making me feel less alone. After making everything interesting again." He swallowed hard. Aaron exhaled, then placed a gentle hand over his. "You saved me, Ezra, and now I need to save you." Ezra squeezed his eyes shut. Then finally he whispered how Aaron gave him a small, bittersweet smile. "I have a ship." Ezra blinked. "You have a ship?" She shrugged. "It's mostly functional." Ezra groaned. "Oh, great, because all the best escape plans start with mostly functional spaceships." Aaron smirked. "We don't have much of a choice." Ezra ran a hand through his hair. "So what, you just blast off and hope for the best? Pretty much." Ezra sighed. "You really suck at making good life decisions. You know that." Aaron grinned. "So do you. That's why we get along." Ezra huffed a laugh. "Yeah, I guess we do." The next few hours were a blur of movement. They drove through back roads and empty fields until they reached a secluded clearing where, sure enough, a very questionable-looking spaceship was waiting. Ezra stared. "That looks like it's held together with duct tape and prayers." Aaron patted the hole. "She's got character." Ezra groaned. "She's got a death wish." Aaron ignored him, climbing up the ramp. Ezra hesitated. At the bottom, she turned, glancing back. "You could come with me," she said softly. Ezra's heart skipped for a brief, dangerous second. He thought about it, about leaving, about adventure, about a life that would never be boring. But then he looked back at the vast, dark sky, at everything unknown, at everything he'd be leaving behind, and he sighed. "You were right," he murmured. "This is your fight, not mine." Aaron nodded, understanding. In her eyes, she stepped forward, closing the distance between them. Then, without warning, she pulled him into a hug. Ezra froze just for a second, then melted into it. "Stay safe, human," she whispered. Ezra smirked against her shoulder. "Same to you, alien." Aaron chuckled, and then, before he could say anything else, she let go, turned, walked up the ramp, and With one last lingering glance, she disappeared inside. Ezra stepped back. The ship rumbled, the engines ignited, and as the bright light burst into the sky, Ezra shielded his eyes and watched as, for the first time in his life, he truly believed in something bigger than himself. Then, with a final roar, the ship vanished. Ezra stood in the empty field alone, and he smiled. The end.